Okay, it's beer o'clock on Real Ale Craft Beer. I'm at the Riverside Beer Garden with Brew. How you doing? I got Wayne and Lee. How you doing, guys?
Yeah.
So this is an interview, really, of where it all started. Where did Brew York start?
Well, it actually started in our sheds. So quite a few years back now, I was doing a bit of home brewing. I just really liked what was going on in the beer scene in the UK, and so I wanted to try and brew something at home.
Yeah.
And then took some of my creations to a friend's barbecue, which Lee was at. Gave him a couple of bottles along with our friends, and they were like, "This is pretty good. This is kind of like what we go out and buy in the pub." So how do you do that? So Lee's got a homebrewing background and wanted to find a bit more about the methods I was using at the time. So
I hadn't brewed in a few years, and I used to do it the old school way, where you go to Boots and you get that little tub of syrup, jumbo, and you'd add extra sugar to it to make it extra boozy.
Concentrated
tasted like crap.
Yeah, it did.
Not like the kind of beers that Wayne was producing. So he then showed me the way he was brewing, which was an Australian method, which kind of reduced the equipment costs. You do it all in one vessel using a bag, and the grain was inside the bag, because then you could pull out the bag with the grain in to get rid of that, and you were just left with the sugary wort.
Yeah.
So I then kind of did exactly what Wayne was doing, created that, and then it became a bit of an arms race between the two of us, adding equipment and brewing beers and entering competitions, and it went pretty well.
Pretty well, fantastic.
And then, like Lee said, one thing led to another. It was I went on holiday.
Good timing.
We're okay if we talk louder, I think.
That's the cooler for our beer wholesalers just kicking in.
Brilliant. We're on this wonderful bank, and you've got the old Roundtree's brewery, chocolate making. I've got brewery on my mind all the time. The old Roundtree's chocolate kind of factory behind us on this riverbank. So we've made our way. So it obviously didn't come here straight away, which is in fact a beautiful old brewery. What was the next stage when you decided your home brews were good enough to put into a little brewery and start up as Brew York?
Well, it was just good timing, really. The company I was working for at the time were merged with another company, and they asked me to stay on, but I kind of wanted to give this a go and try doing something with the brewery. So I handed my notice in, took redundancy, and started speaking to Lee, and the company he was working at went through a similar process. So just good timing. We both managed to get redundancy at a similar time. Yeah. And figured, while we were still relatively young, not that young, but while we're still relatively young, we could give this a go. And
I remember being there's a pub up the road called the Fosgate Social. We sat there with Wayne and his partner Sally, and I think that's where it really became a possibility. We had a conversation on, are we prepared to go to our graves, not at least having attempted this,
trying something.
And we decided, you know what, it might not work, but let's give it a crack.
But
thankfully it's worked out all right.
It's wonderful. I've just seen, sorry to interrupt you guys, but I've just seen just growth from you guys, where now your cans are in a lot of the supermarkets, and some of your chocolate stouts and your IPAs are just wonderful. And of course now, for me down in South Wales, 440 ml cans, we've been seeing them for the last couple of years down there, and this is wonderful. But obviously there was a stage before you got to that.
Yeah, we things went relatively fast for us once we got into the brewery. We have a 10-barrel brewery, which is just shy of brew length. It's about 2,000 litres each time we brew.
Yeah.
And then very early doors, we picked up a contract with Tesco's for 3 of our core beers. This was four and a bit years ago now.
Okay.
And it was a bit of an unusual step, because nobody was really selling to supermarkets back then, and we gave it a try, and that gave us the confidence in sales to start growing the brewery side of things, which then let us do what we really wanted to do, which is brew lots of specials. So we had the core beers, we had a regular supply for them, and then we could start doing creative stuff, brewing lots of interesting beers, and then that's where I think a lot of people know us now. So things like Tom Coco, our chocolate and Tonka milk stout, and then we went into things like rhubarb Streisand, so a rhubarb milkshake pale ale, and then rhubarb extra sour, rhubarb extra custard. All these things where we tried to do some more experimental brewing happened because we had the security of knowing that we had the sales. And then we decided that the brewery wasn't big enough at that point to be able to continue the commitment to the supermarkets, so we stopped selling into supermarkets and focused on our our own beers and our local pubs and independent bottle shops, and we kept that going for a few years, and we've got quite a good portfolio of beers out. And then we've decided to dip our toes back into the water of supermarkets again with beers that are kind of brewed exclusively for the supermarkets, but we found that independents still want to buy them as well.
Yeah,
so we want to keep the supply of new and interesting beers going for all our fans and independent bottle shops. And then we have a range of beers that can be bought anywhere. Because what we don't want to do is get to a position where we sell a large volume of beer to a supermarket who can afford to sell it at a relatively low price, and then the businesses who've supported us all along then can't compete. We want to keep the supply of really interesting beers to those guys, as well as helping the business grow.
So we've made some pretty strange business decisions in our time, or at least it might look like that from the outside, but it was about us being true to what we saw Brew York being. Turning our back on the supermarkets quite early on would probably be seen as weird, but that was to allow us to spread our wings further and do the things that we wanted to be known for. And likewise, we've probably on 3-4 occasions killed off our best-selling beer because we didn't think it fit with who we wanted to be.
That's passion. That's passion. I always remember seeing your 330 milliliter cans. That was 4 or 5 years ago now, was it? And
3 to 4 years ago.
3 to 4 years ago, you went into the 330s. Was it a kind of a movement towards 440s that you've seen and you thought, right, we want to be involved with that?
The market really dictated that. So we could see that others were moving towards 440. But it was really the independent bottle shops approaching us saying, we could sell a lot more of your beer if you put it in 440s. And when you've got your customers starting to tell you that, then you kind of have to do it. And not many people are privileged enough to have a canning line that easily changes between different sizes. You really have to opt for one or the other. So for us that was 440, although occasionally for very big runs we will do some 330s. But we try not to do that too often because dialing the machine back in is super complicated.
Okay, I see.
Well, we have quite complex branding, so we have bespoke branding on all our cans. We don't label put a sticker on a plain can. It's top to bottom, shrink sleeved, and every time you switch between sizes, that's actually a rebrand. And admittedly, it's not as expensive as doing a bespoke design, but even those little tweaks take time and money. So you kind of need to choose which route you're going down and
stick
commit
with
to
that.
it. So we chose the 440ml route, and it works great. Sometimes it looks a bit funny when you release a 14% beer and it's in a 440ml can, but that's great for people to share it.
Exactly.
Like that,
Exactly. So when you talk about you've decided over the time to kill a really popular beer. What beer would that have been that I knew of? Do you still make the Tom Coco?
Tom Coco, Rhubarber, Streisand we still make. They came along sort of 9 to 18 months into our journey. It's some of the ones from earlier in our journey. So we had a kind of self-titled Brew York.
Yes, I remember it. I remember that
one. So good we named it twice and hopped it thrice.
Brilliant, love it.
But unfortunately, when we first entered the market, it was a time when around the world there had been very poor hop harvests. We entered partway through the harvest year, so it was really hard for us to get the sexy hops like your Citras, your Mosaics, and so we had to pick the kind of less on vogue hops and do the best that we could with them, and I think we made great beers with them. But a beer made with things like Summit is not going to stand up to a beer made with citrus.
I got you. Yeah, I remember that year. Just the prices were just going up through the roof, wasn't they? And there was a real shortage of hops.
Thankfully, it's not been like that again since, and we have a very good supply now. So we make a lot more interesting hoppy beers now.
Is there? Sorry to interrupt you, Wayne. Is there farmers in the UK actively since the boom of hops and of course whenever there's a shortage, it's a great way to get in and earn some money. Is there a lot of farmers in the UK that have decided to stop putting potatoes in the ground and have started growing hops? Is that a thing?
Not massively, because they are such they take up so much space, so you need such big fields to gain relatively small harvest, and it takes years, 4 to 5 years for an actual a crop you can then sell. So it's a big commitment. So it's more the fact that I think a lot of hop farmers look at what styles what hop varieties they can grow well themselves, and they might be able to migrate slightly, but they can't deviate completely because the climate the hop's grown in massively influences the flavour. So
it's a bit like your passion fruit plant. You were telling me you planted about 4 or 5 years ago. You've got your first flat of fruit on it. Next year you're going to have an abundance of, of fruit, and you do a passion fruit, riverbank passion fruit beer.
Pre-filming, we just spotted for the first time ever that we have fruit on our passion fruit flower.
That's because we haven't got customers using the beer garden at the moment. It's not picking them.
That's not. Yeah.
So that brings us to here, this moment. This brings us to this brewery.
Yeah, so we're at our original brew house, so our 10-barrel brew plant in the city centre, where we have an adjoining tap room, so we can seat about 100 people in there normally with this nice riverside beer garden. And then we took the building on next door to it, which is the beer hall, where we've done some filming in there, and we can you can see that space as well. But this year, despite COVID, we've had some great support from the public. We love the fact that everyone's jumped up, or been buying our beers and supporting us, which has been really nice, because despite the start of all this, we were worried about whether we'd even be able to continue as a business. Yeah. Things have gone relatively well, and we're in a position where we've committed to expanding, and we are about a month away from opening our new production site. So
fantastic.
We'll take you down there and show you around there, but that's going to be a twin 30-barrel brew house, where our production capacity will quadruple. So we'll be able to keep brewing as many specials as we brought out this year, which was a lot, as well as keeping on top of our core beer production. So it's pretty exciting times, and perhaps more exciting for myself and Lee is it's more of a kind of a hobby project on the side. This original brew house is going to be focused on doing barrel-aged beers, spontaneous fermentation beers, just the type of stuff we really love, but it's hard to commit to when you need to pay the bills. Yeah,
of course. So you've gone down a really sensible route of having a really strong core range, and then on the side you've got where you can play about with your barrel aging, and that's fantastic.
Yeah, super excited about what we're going to be doing here. Yeah. We're going to be doing a barrel aged release every month once we get into the cycle of things. And then the thing that I'm really excited about is the sour beers that we're going to be doing from here with Brett and Pediococcus and stuff like that.
Fantastic. So look out for future videos. We're going to do a brewery tour video of Brew York. You guys would have missed the live stream we're going to do, because it's going to be posted in the next week or two. We're going to do a live feed here tonight. Check out the brewery tour videos, and we're going to do some beer reviews perhaps on the riverbank here before it gets dark. And look out for more of the Brew York beer videos in the future. Cheers.